Thank you everyone for joining Future Generations University for Amplify Your Impact, a webinar series designed to highlight digital skills and accessible resources to help you share your message and mission with your wider community. The mission of our university is to advance research, learning, and action towards inclusive and sustainable community change worldwide. We do that through education, action, research, and peer learning, just like what we have planned here today. We are so pleased you are here with us. Please take a moment to share your name and where you are logging in from in the chat. Before we get started, here are a few housekeeping details. The agenda for today's session is as follows. Following this brief introduction, our presenter will share a 30-minute presentation. Today's topic is social media. And then after the presentation, we will have a Q&A session that will last about 5 to 10 minutes. We will conclude with an open discussion where we ask you to share your insights, experiences, and tips on the subject. The webinar will wrap up at the end of the hour, and this recording, presentation deck, and a supplemental resource handout will be shared with all of you in the coming days. Please use the Q&A button for your questions. You can find that at the bottom center of your Zoom window. Use the chat to share tips, links, or resources that we can highlight during the open discussion. Now that you have signed up for this webinar series, you will automatically get reminders for the upcoming sessions, so there's no need to register again. With that, I am pleased to welcome today's presenter, Deborah Sossewer. Deborah Sossewer has a background in fine art before becoming a nonprofit administrative professional, which she has done for the past decade. She earned a Bachelor of Arts in Fine Arts with a concentration in Women and Feminism Studies from Bryn Mawr College and a Master of Fine Arts in Printmaking from the Pratt Institute in New York. She was part-time associate professor at Kennesaw State University and worked as an administrator and in leadership roles for Atlanta Printmaker Studio, C4 Atlanta, and SGC International. Previously Director of Marketing and Communications at Aramont School of Arts and Crafts, Deborah is currently Senior Director of Strategic Communications at Future Generations University. So without further ado, over to you, Deborah.
Lindsay, thank you so much. And thanks everybody for joining us. It's so great to see the people who've been with us on this journey thus far and some new faces in the chat. I'm actually starting my timer so I can try to stay on time. 30 minutes is not a long time to cover this topic in depth. So let me tell you what I will be talking about today. I'm going to start off with just an overview of social media channels, the types of channels, with some examples of what app is part of each channel, what the top platforms are, both globally and in the US, some of the pros and cons of using social media, and then kind of practically ways to think about mapping what social media channels are best for your project or for your enterprise. Then I want to do a deeper dive into the 3 social media channels that the university uses primarily, which is Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And then I want to conclude with a brief discussion about how to think about creating a content strategy for using social media, and what to report on, thinking about analytics. So how do you get concrete about something that can feel very soft and nebulous? Social media, what we're talking about today. So social media is just about connecting and sharing via networks through a digital profile, right? There's a lot of demonization of social media in some circles, but in my mind, I've always thought of it as just a natural extension of our human psychology, right? We're social creatures, and it's part of the inherent evolutionary makeup of humanity that we seek connection. And so social media, being able to connect with people like Chris was describing, she can stay in touch with friends and family who are hours, away, days away, in an instant. And so, but that does come at a cost as well. But the major types of networks that, when you think about social media, they can be broken down, as you can see in this slide. There's media sharing. So that's your Instagram. Instagram was started off as a photo sharing app, and then it kind of became more social. Snapchat is the same. Snapchat is that's where stories came from. So Snapchat was the first app that actually had only 24-hour access to a post or a video. Um, TikTok follows in the steps of YouTube, but that's the short form videos. When TikTok began, there was a time limit, so you could only post videos that were, I think, 2 minutes of length or shorter. Pinterest, YouTube, etc. There's microblogging and breaking news channels, and that's X. That would be Threads or Blue Sky. And so those channels are used, like Jonathan in the chat was saying, that he used it to track stock markets. And those are things that happen that you want to see immediate results. X at the time was Twitter when it gained kind of global predominance. And it was with a lot of protest movements. So X, the origins of X is very much a social movement app, because when traditional and more kind of cumbersome media was unable to break through and report on breaking news, people on their phone with X were able to do so. So the world was able to see in real time real things happening. And so you see a lot of journalism and news organizations use X as sort of a primary source. There's informal social networking, and that's Facebook. Facebook is the kind of king of the hill. It's been around for a long time, and it's kept its world predominance in that whole time. Um, there's professional networking focus, and that's your LinkedIn and Behance. There are discussion forums. There's Reddit. Reddit was sort of underground for a long time, and now it's becoming much more predominant. I think it's interesting because it feels like a balance to the emerging AI technologies, where people who have some fear of using AI go to Reddit, because Reddit is where real humans have answered real questions for years. Quora, Discord, Substack, Stack Spaces, or other discussion forum channels. And then you have direct messaging apps, and that's WhatsApp is probably the top messaging app internationally. You also have Signal, WeChat, and Telegram. Um, Something we're not going to discuss, but there's another type of site which is called review sites. So that would be like your social media that helps you look up a restaurant or look up a hotel. So your Yelp, your TripAdvisor, or your Google reviews would fall into that category. So just briefly, the graph on the right of the screen is from a Pew report. And that's specifically for US consumers of social media. And you can kind of see YouTube is quite high. Facebook is the blue line right below YouTube. And on the left, you can see like a recent poll from Data Reportal, which is a global study of social media use. So Facebook, there's 3 billion users. So that's a little less than half of the world population. WhatsApp is right below it, and Instagram as well. So for those of you who look at Facebook, use WhatsApp, go to Instagram, watch YouTube, you are in good company. And then importantly, the average person spends 2.5 hours a day on social media. I have an iPhone, and so I usually get like the weekly like use reports, and I don't want to see that. It can be a little depressing. But it is a connection tool, and especially for those of us who do communications as part of our professional work, um, being on social media is important. It is important to stay in touch with um, and get a vibe check and understand kind of where our audiences are, because social media it's nimble. It does change and it does adapt. And so we'll talk more about that when we talk about content strategy creation. So why would you even consider using social media as part of your communications package or part of your business model? And the first thing is that global accessibility, right? Um, you get to um, you get to connect with people in different countries, in different hemispheres, in different time zones, who speak different languages, and you can connect. Um, and so people can have access to who you are and what you represent. Um, you can share your content. My background in art, as Lindsay described earlier. So a lot of my friends who are artists, website was, you had to have a website to be, to show your art. But anymore, a lot of people just use Instagram, or they use Blue Sky, or they use other social media platforms to like take pictures and share their content. Or a lot of my writing friends, they use Substack to help to share their writing with people, and kind of skirting some of the more rigid capitalistic systems. Um, you can build community, right? Future Generations University, community building, community development, that is our core. That is why we exist. And social media is a way to expand and build that community. And I'll call on Chris and Lindsay later to talk about how they stay connected and they build our community using social media, using groups and pages on Facebook. And we're not going to talk about advertising today because that's a paid service, and it kind of needs its own category. We just don't have time in a half an hour, but traditional advertising is very costly. And so digital advertising on social media spaces, where we just saw people are spending 2.5 hours of their day, on average. It's a powerful tool. And a lot of social media sites are free to use, right? They're free to sign up for, which means that you have a broad audience. But these platforms are private corporations, so they need to make money, and they do that through advertising revenue. And so they can increasingly, and those of you who work in social media, you can add this in the chat. If you've seen your organic reach ebb in the last few years, it's because the algorithms that are being controlled by the people who work for these companies are shifting to lift up content that has some small fee attached. So your paid advertising. And when I use words like organic refers to content that you do not pay to put out on your social media channel. Organic content is kind of tied to the idea of viral content, right? Where something is so funny or so pointed or so moving, emotionally moving, that it captures the hearts and minds and kind of like spreads like wildfire. And typically and organic content is the idea that people are so attracted to what you're saying and what you're showing that they in earnest want to follow you, and they want to share what you're doing without an incentive. So let me talk a little bit about the disadvantages of social media, primarily misinformation and disinformation. And so and we've been handed this incredible connection tool, and it's a lot of it didn't come with a manual of how to stay true. And so one of the things that will happen with social media is, because the algorithms are trying to learn who you are as a consumer, as a customer, they're going to start to show you the things that you linger on. Your devices are listening. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is just part of what you might see with the targeted ads that you have. And this is also if and when we get a chance to talk about advertising and targeted ads and geocaching, those are all terms that's actually very helpful for businesses. But it can be turned. And so what ends up happening is, when you only start to see content that you already agree with, and that exacerbates like heightened emotions, help people make purchases. So there is a value to kind of isolating people into these silos or these echo chambers where they're seeing content that they're used to already seeing. And with the rise of virtual chatbots and AI, personas, like some of these issues are exacerbated. So disinformation and misinformation are a huge, huge issue with social media. And that's why there's sort of a grapple, because it's a private enterprise. but it has such huge public ramifications. Mental health impact. So a lot of people are you're able to put a filter on, right? There's a whole industry of people who can make money as influencers, which means that they get paid to show products in a light that seems authentic, that appears authentic, and that is appealing to consumers. And so when you can take a bunch of photos and put on a filter and make yourself look younger, more fit, more, happier, that's the reality that other people see, and that's the reality that you see when you're on your devices. And so there is a heightened, there is a positive correlation that can be tied to social media with both with sleep disorders. So like disordered sleeping, it's hard. It's, you kind of get into like the doom scrolling. I do. And you're able, so it impacts sleep, and then also having the light source at your eyes, and then like whatever information that might be coming through that is designed to excite your emotions right before sleeping can cause less healthy sleep. And then there's kind of, again, we're social creatures. It's 100% natural to compare yourself to your peers or whom you perceive to be your peers in your community. And when everyone in your community looks like they have these perfect, beautiful, unreal existences, and you examine your own and it's not perfect, and it's real, that can cause increased depression and anxiety. And then finally, there are imperfect protections for people who use social media, and particularly for children. So there is a positive correlation of an increase in grooming, uh, and inappropriate both content and then actions as it relates to young people who are, there's predation that's used with social media. So as you engage in social media in a professional setting, there it I would argue that it is essential. And that doesn't mean that we can't be very conscious, and we have to be very intentional about how we use it and how we can protect and enhance the positive parts of our community through these mediums. So when you think about what social media to use for your project or for your business or your enterprise, you want to map, you want to start off with what is your goal? And then you want to map on the social media platform or channel or channels that will help you best meet that goal. So for most businesses, it's about brand awareness. They need to let people know who they are. So established and stable social media platforms are the best way to do that. And so that would be your Facebook and your Instagram, because they have the most followers. They have the most kind of functionality to help you share your brand, share who you are in a variety of ways. And that can be both very broad and very targeted. If you want to continue to build your community, then you want to use platforms where it's part of the culture of that channel is interaction. So again, Facebook does that. There's multiple ways you can engage with a post just by clicking. You can like or love or, laugh or hate, right? You can write comments. That's the same with Instagram, and LinkedIn is also very much a back and forth communication engagement platform. And same with, so audience engagement and building community kind of hand in hand. If you are trying to reach young audiences, younger people tend to look at Instagram and TikTok. If you are trying to reach, someone like Rosie is trying to reach, if their demographic is children, you're actually trying to target their parents. So actually you want to be on Facebook, right? Because it's the parents who get to make the decision for minors. And for, again, if you're doing a broad audience, Facebook is your bread and butter. And if you're primarily doing content that has a lot of video, for longer form, you want to use YouTube, because YouTube is still, it's extremely popular, and it's extremely popular with families. All of my peers who have young children, their kids are watching YouTube. And then the short form is your TikTok and Instagram. So we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive starting with Facebook. Just to go back really quick, I recommend that you start with one or maybe two channels for your enterprise or business. Do not get Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, like, I don't know, what every other thing, like, photo bucket. Like, if you have to manage social media and it's not your primary job, more than two or three is too many channels. You will not have good enough content, and it will be a waste of time. But if you only have one social media channel, I recommend Facebook. It's been around for 20 years. It is number one in the globe. They have a number of functionality pieces that you can kind of see here. And it's also used as a search engine. 1.5 billion people a day search on Facebook for content. So you can have very open information on Facebook. You can have very closed and intimate groups on Facebook. You can advertise for events. Facebook has been around so long and has become such a conglomerate that it has a lot of dual functionality. It operates as easily on a Mac as it does on a PC, and that traditionally some of these different software platforms or hardware platforms didn't play as well. So and Facebook is it's so well known that it's the barrier to entry for your audience is very low. So I'm going to stop, and I want to share my screen because I want to share my browser window. And that is because I want to show you guys what it looks like if you have Facebook and you have a business account. So I'm not sure if everybody here has Facebook, a personal account, but when you go to Facebook, you can see it's logged me into the Future Generations University Facebook account. And the first thing you can see is news, ads, news. This is one of our alumni. Oh, hey, Lindsay. This is real time. Look, we're famous on the internet, y'all.
I was trying to promote this webinar series.
This is I like it. So this is a web browser version of Facebook. So if I were to click on the left, I can see our profile, and this is where you can see, we have almost 6,000 followers. We follow a number of other organizations and individuals. There are some differences. So this, again, we could do, not only could we do a full presentation hour on Facebook, we could probably do a whole webinar series on Facebook because there's just so much content to unlock. So what I really want to show you today is some of the basics of each of these platforms. And what I really want to show you is how to plan and schedule content, because that to me is the make or break difference of how to effectively use social media in your business or in your project. That's functional, because if you're tied to having to log in and think of content in the moment every single day, that's hard to maintain a strategy when it's constant implementation, and it's hard to bring in a team to help you do it. But with scheduling and with some of the other strategies that we'll discuss shortly, it doesn't all have to rest on you if you're working with others. But these are just your normal functions. Now, there is a separate login if you have a business page, what I was about to say earlier is that a business page has different access to profiles than a personal page. So if you are friends with somebody on through your personal Facebook page, like let's say me and Lindsay are friends, I can tag her in a post that I, Deborah Soswer, am posting. But because Lindsay's an individual, and if I were to transfer to the Future Generations University page, in that post, it doesn't always let me link to an individual. And that's why you might see in posts, there's general posts and they might call out a person's name. And then in the comment section, that's when they're able to add a link or tag an individual person. This is just to do with business versus personal profile accounts. But over here, you can see there's a professional dashboard. And when you click on that, you get to see some of your analytics and metrics, right? Your reach, your views, your interactions, your new followers. And it gives you some tips and advice. And you can also see things like information about your audience, right? We have a lot of people in Nepal who look at our Facebook, and that's because we have staff and alumni in Nepal who are working every day. So if you wanted to go to schedule your content, you want to go to the business suite. So Facebook was invented by Mark Zuckerberg and others. Originally, it was the single app. They then became a broader tech company, and they renamed themselves Meta. And they've also purchased Instagram. So the Meta Business Suite is where you can post to both Facebook and Instagram, right? So you can look at if you look on the left side of the screen, you see my giant cursor. You click on content, and that shows you all of your posts. Okay, you can remind me later. Which normally you can scroll down. Okay, here we go. And what you're seeing here is a post on Instagram, and you can see the little icon on the bottom right of the thumbnail photo. And you can see that post on Facebook, right? And you can see the times that they were posted. Now, on the left-hand side, on the far left navigation field, this is content. So if I couldn't find a video that I wanted to repost. So I went to the post type and I put reels, right? That's what they call videos over here. And then now it shows me all of the videos that have been posted. And let's say I can remember that it was posted Rosie's going to be doing a presentation through the success sharing sessions in January. And I wanted to look at the posts from January of this year of the videos, because I wanted to share with Rosie the video that we published from the presentation that happened last year. That didn't really happen, but that as an example. So then I can go to that time and find that post. So that's content that's already existing on your pages and ways to kind of find that. Now, if you want to schedule your content, if you go to the left and you go down, there's a planner, and it shows, it looks like a calculator, but actually it's meant to be a calendar. And you press planner, and then you see a calendar field here, and you will be able to scroll forward in time, and it will also give you advice on the best times of day or night to post based on the people who interact with your content, their interaction habits. So on Monday, they recommend on Instagram that you schedule a post at 4 in the afternoon on Eastern Standard Time. They also have AI shows you at the top upcoming holidays or international celebration days. In the United States, Halloween is a huge holiday, and that is a week in about a week and a half, followed by Dia de los Muertos. Daylight savings in the US happens the next weekend. So when you are scheduling a post, you see all sorts of options. You pull up, these are the windows that automatically pop up. So 10 a.m. is what's automatically populated. This is just if you were to do nothing else, every single thing would be posted only at 10 a.m. I do recommend the cadence for posting that you post at different times of the day and night. Look at what they recommend. But it feels a little bit more organic, and people might be looking on their phones at different times. So in order to capture the greatest range of engagement, I would switch a little bit of the times. And again, we'll talk about this shortly in strategy, but what are your goals? If in my previous job, there were times when I had programs specifically geared towards teachers. Now, teachers get up pretty early in the morning to get to school on time. So they're typically looking at their phones and scrolling on their apps, usually between 6:30 and 7:30 in the morning in the United States. Whereas if I was promoting things for college age students, I would schedule that same post with the content specifically for the audience that I'm trying to target later in the afternoon or early evening, because I know that might be a time in a college student schedule when they have finished classes, they finish dinner, they might be doing homework, they might be kind of distracting themselves on their phone, right? So you can choose exactly when you want your post to be, you can, what time, and you can do it for both Facebook and Instagram at the same time through the Meta Business Suite. And then the nice thing here is you can add photos or add videos. You can type your text, and you can see this here, customization for Facebook and Instagram. If you are a one-person shop and you're doing social media in addition to running your own business enterprise or the other facets of your project, done is good, right? Do not let perfection be the enemy of completion. So you can have the same content on Facebook and Instagram, the same photos, the same language, and just post it on both platforms so you capture as much of your audience as you can. However, a better practice is to tweak things specifically for the audience. So one major point is that on Facebook, you can add a link and people can actually navigate. They can click on the link in your post and go to the page. But in Instagram, they cannot. So that's why you see a lot of link in bio information on an Instagram post. And that's because the bio is the one place built into the Instagram app where links can work. And then there's other ways you can, the original app, you can just have one link. So it might be to your personal web page. It might be to your business page. Now there are some third-party apps that you can add. One is a popular one is Linktree. That's what the university uses. And that means you can have multiple. So you have the perfect, you've done all the things I'm not showing you on the screen. You can save it as a draft, or you can go ahead and publish. Down here are your publishing options. So again, I can schedule it for this weekend. And then I can schedule. So when you see schedule, it means that you've put it ahead of time. If you just put it for today, and you also, it, it, it needs a little bit of leeway. it will also be scheduled, right? Okay, I'm going to stop there because already Facebook has eaten up so much of our time. Let me just quickly share the presentation because I want to just show you on this presentation. I'm not going to talk about it right now, but this is something, again, you will receive this in the next few days, but I do have image sizes so that as you're building your Facebook profiles, as you're thinking about the kind of images or the size of videos that you need to include, you have those. It's your post may not go through it. Facebook and Instagram don't have the best functionality for converting image or particularly video sizes. So you need to have your images ready to go, which you can do through reviewing our photography and our Canva webinar presentations from earlier in this series. But for just a brief few minutes, Lindsay and Chris, can I just pull you onto the screen so that you guys can share a little bit about how you both use Facebook, specifically groups, and a targeted page to engage with audiences that are not just a broad, every person, any takers, all comers. And let me start with Chris.
Hi. So let me see here. I want to prep my Facebook account so that I can share my screen here. So I am the one that does the administration for the alumni group. And so over here, these are shortcuts. So right here, otherwise I can just search for my group, but this is one of the groups that I'm the administrator for. And so one of the things that I use is I also have scheduled posts. So for a group, you can schedule posts. In order to do that, you start just like as if you were writing for any other post. And let me just, like, I can create a post. But then down here in this corner, that's where I'm gonna be random text. And then down here in this corner, I can pick a date and a time, and I can schedule everything out for 2 months. So I can do that right here. And if I am not sure where, like if I actually click on this, you can see I have my posts and I can go through and look at them right here to make sure I'm staggering things out, so on and so forth. One of the other things that I use in the group is we have events so we have the alumni reunions, we have these are past events that I've done. So you can create an event for your group, which is great. And I've also done something to try to help keep my information together, and that's through guides. So I have guides for class reunions to help create like divisions, or not divisions, groupings of information, so that based on the cohort that you're from, you can go to your guide and all the information for that. Reunions right there. And you can also, one of the things that you can do for featured is you can, this is the featured, when you look at the group up here, you have the things that are featured. I have the path on how you can get, how the program works, this particular series, and then I have the rules for the group. One of the things that I do is, our group is a public group. Anyone can see it. But in order to participate in it, they have to be approved. And that's just to make sure that I want to guard this space for alumni, partners, and friends of the university. And I don't want to have it being targeted for spamming and other things. So that's why I have those things. And that's you can see this here, pending approvals. And in order to make sure people are wanting to be in this group, I put in participation questions. Like, what's your connection with this particular group? And will you agree to following the rules of this group, which are right here. So that's how I use this page.
And
Say I'll let
Bill has a question of approved by whom. So Bill, Chris is the person who gets to approve this because she's the administrator of that Google page. So
yeah, I'm one of like three,
set up
yeah.
permissions for your whole team, but that goes to some
And
of the
you can,
protections, right?
and that's one of the things that you can do. Like if you have people that you trust, like I trust our alumni are pre-approved to post. However, there are people in our group that are not alumni. They're partners, and I may not have regular interactions with them. And so alumni are pre-approved to post. However, other partners that I may not have solid relationships until I do, I approve their posts individually.
All right, Lindsay, I'm going to put you in the hot seat for 4 minutes. Will you talk about the Future Generations Appalachia page, and then I will fly through the rest of this presentation.
I sure will. So, all right. So what you are seeing here is sort of the back end of the Appalachians Facebook page. And it looks very similar to what Deborah shared with the university's page, but we use this pretty differently than the way that the university's page is used. So we have different content that gets shared here. So our program has Maple in the Classroom. So we have community programs that we share here. So this is a post for a Maple in the Classroom program. And then this is a post for our Nepal field course that is coming up. And so the style of our posts are a little bit different since we are a community engagement program. We have a little bit more flexibility to have a few more emojis than what the university does. We also have our style is a little bit different because our community is different. And so that's something that you want to be cognizant of whenever you are creating your content. Who are you creating the content for? Who are you going to be receiving this? Who's going to be receiving this? Our audience for our page here for the Appalachian program is completely different than the audience of the university's page. So we want to make sure that we're sharing content that is relevant and real for them. So we share stuff here in our stories that our partner pages share, for example. Let me try to find something here. Well, first, I'll touch on this. So our audience, we have a lot of tree syrup producers, and our work really focuses on amplifying the ways that our community and any community can use tree syrups in a more versatile way. So we share recipes, we share ways that our tree syrup producers are working in community, and then that gets shared in a multitude of ways into groups, into stories, onto other pages as well. And if I go up here, I should be able to maybe show you faster. Well, no, I haven't shared anything on stories yet today, so there's not anything there. But if you click on your profile picture, it'll give you the option to either view your profile picture or the content that has been shared to the stories. And if I had shared anything recently in the last 24 hours, it would still be there, but it's all expired. But That's the type of content that we share to also create those partnerships with our other programs that we work with, like the Department of Agriculture, the USDA, the West Virginia Food and Farm Coalition, those types of entities.
Yeah. And yeah, when you see a ring around someone's profile picture, that's the indicator that they have a story that's live. So let me share my screen again. We just talked very in depth about Facebook. I showed you the same mechanism, but for scheduling Facebook for a business page is the same for Instagram. Instagram tends to work better on your phone than it does on your computer. So it's not impossible to create posts on the computer, but it's a lot easier to do it on your phone, unless you're using the Meta Business Suite for your scheduling. So that's why it's extremely helpful when I use the computer, and that's where I store my photographs. And then I'll have to scroll through my phone's like photo app to find the right images. So Instagram, but there are some things that are a little bit easier when you're using your device. And here are the size. So Facebook is a little bit of Facebook, a lot of things will go. You can have different size images all on the same post. And Instagram, all of the image sizes have to be the same. And I think actually they recently updated it, but carousel used to only be able to have a maximum of 10 images, 10 photos, all of the same size. You can upload different sizes, but whatever the first image is in that carousel, that actually determines the size for all of the rest of your images. I think they might have just updated it to 20. But for the Anthony's and others in our who are participating who are not able to access Facebook or possibly any Meta owned apps in their country, the other top choice that I would recommend is LinkedIn. LinkedIn has gained a lot of more primacy in the last couple of years. I think especially as industry has taken off. There is a lot of push and pull after the pandemic. That was really when LinkedIn and being able to feel like you had professional connections, even if you weren't able to be in person in an office, that to me feels like a very tied together. So LinkedIn is a free online kind of work and professional kind of skewed social networking app. So I'm going to just quickly show you what it looks like on the back end. So when you travel to LinkedIn, if you have a business page, this confused me at first because I'd only used LinkedIn personally before I started doing this kind of work professionally. But Future Generations has its own, this is our kind of like, this is our main profile. But we have a business page, which looks like this. And so the business page is what's linked to some of our scheduling services. So if you have your own profile and you're creating a business page, and there's up on the top navigation, you can see for business, there's all sorts of options here. That will take you to a separate page from your personal one. So you click on that page, and this is what it looks like. Again, you can kind of track performances. It gives you some basic analytics. You can see your recent posts. On the left side navigation, you see different options, but the blue button that's right at the top is how you create a new post. Scheduling, you can schedule posts on LinkedIn. It's not as intuitive to find it like it is on in the Meta Business Suite. So here's how you do it. You create a post, and it's the best post that's ever been created. And one of the nice things about LinkedIn, unlike other social media apps, is you can attach PDFs. And so that can be quite handy, especially for Lindsay, if she has to attach like a Maple research paper, for example, or if Chris wanted to attach one of the research articles by some of our faculty or associates. So, is the best post that's ever been created. You can post it immediately, but right next to the post on the bottom right of this pop-up window is a clock. And when you hover over it, it says schedule for later. So that is how you then decide this is actually a Halloween post for the United States on, and you can decide what time. And then you press next and then you continue to schedule. But there's no dashboard that shows a calendar where you can see schedule posts unless you go into the initial post window. So you have to actually create a new post in order to access the scheduling app. So to me, that was not intuitive, and it was important to me to show that on this presentation. So now let me finally bring you back to the PowerPoint. Here are just a handy guide for sizes for LinkedIn. And then I want to very briefly touch on a couple things that I think are really important. If you're using social media in your project or business, you want to be able to quantify the impact that it has. And you want to be able to use it effectively. So social media by itself is handy, but it's not helpful unless you have a strategy for the kind of content and the cadence of content and the implementation of that content. So the way to develop your content strategy is to start with your goals, right? Start with your audience. Who am I trying to reach and what am I trying to make them do? What action do I need them to take? Then you decide where you can reach them. And some of that is, best, like I'm saying, oh, well, Facebook is really great for this, but maybe you don't have access to Facebook. So then LinkedIn might be your next best, but you want to have a understanding what social media tools are at your disposal can still help you decide. Maybe it's WhatsApp, maybe direct communication is better. Chris has found that with a lot of her alumni groups. There are group messages that she can communicate more effectively with them with direct messaging than with a wider, more broad social media platform. You want to plan content themes and formats. So what the comms team here does, what Lindsay and Chris and I do is I'm charged with the overall communications branding of this university. And something that's indelibly imprinted on us are our values. And so we have 6 values that we hold as imperative to our work. And that those values include supporting women's rights. They include preserving the earth through conservation. They include worldwide learning and accessibility and empowering people and communities. And so what we've done with our content strategy is because there's 12 months in the year and we have 6 values, we basically cycle through, we take the month of January, and International Education Day falls in January. So January, we've decided, is a month where we highlight our value of assuring lifelong world circling learning. And so you might see in our content a lot more posts that deal with education, that deal with that world circling learning value. Earth Day falls in April. So April is the month that we highlight a lot of our conservation work and our conservation values. And this is just a way to help make these plans. So it doesn't have to be a value statement. It can be seasonal. You can decide anything that makes sense for you, but just as a way to help you generate ideas. So then you want to create a realistic posting schedule. There's different philosophies on this. If you're just getting started and you don't have a lot of, if you're new, you don't have a lot of brand awareness, you want to post more often because you want to get in front of people. And it takes multiple times for people to see you before they start to engage. With sales, for-profit sales, I think the average is you need, like, quote unquote 7 touches, 7 instances of your brand being in front of somebody's eyes before they make a purchase. For donations, it's no fewer than 13 touches. So someone has to see your content 13 times before they say, actually, I think on average, before they're compelled to give a donation. And then you want to measure and assess how you're doing, right? If if you get into kind of a rhythm, sometimes you can get into a rut, and then people kind of scroll past you, or their algorithms change because the app is saying they want to see more video content. And so if you don't adjust your strategy, if you don't adjust how you're trying to reach people, you might get left behind. And then these are a couple slides that show you how to measure that impact. So you'll see, as you're looking into social media and some of the resources that we'll share in a supplemental guide, you'll see the acronym KPI quite often. That stands for key performance indicators. And so that's basically, how can you tell that you're doing well? So if your goal is awareness, you want to see how the impressions, how many people your content reaches, how many people have actually clicked to look at your profile. If you want to measure engagement, that's how many people commented or shared or liked or otherwise interacted, took the time to use their fingers on their device to do something with your post. And this information is really helpful if you're looking for, say, corporate sponsorships. Corporations want to get their brand in front of consumers. And so if you can say, I can help you reach 5,000 people because this is the reach that my brand has, they might say, we're going to donate to your cause, because they know that it's going to look good for their corporate identity. But so this is why analyzing and reporting on these is important. And finally, these are just a couple of visual examples of ways to organize your content. So if it's a lot easier to spend a couple hours one day a month and schedule out your posts all at one time while you're kind of in that headspace and you're following your strategy, than it is to remember every single day at different times of the day. And then you can kind of create different spreadsheets that help you connect directly to whichever channel you're going to, and to the specific analytics pages on those channels. I think Lindsay does this, kind of just has a regular day where she, like maybe once a month or something, looks at everything. With Instagram, I think they have weekly analytics reports. It's not monthly. But anyway, you determine how often you want to check your reach, your impact, your impressions, the best performing posts, and then you can enter into spreadsheets, and then that makes reporting a lot easier. If you have questions, and because we've run out of time today, Lindsay is going to send a follow-up email in the next week with this video, with the slides from today, and with some supplemental materials. Please reach out with your questions and we can answer them directly as they go forward. But it's been a pleasure to present on this today, as clearly there's so much to talk about, even more to dive in more deeply. And I can't wait to see how you guys implement a social media strategy for your work.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you all.